Hello, my name is Sean Knuth, and I am a clinician here at Southeast Psych, and I am here with Leigh Sellers from Krusch and Sellers. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a family lawyer, which means we do mostly domestic custody, divorces, separation agreements, prenups, things that affect the family relationship. And I graduated law school in '91, so I've been doing it for quite a while.
Quite a while, great. Well, it just so happens I'm a forensic psychologist, and we have an area of practice in common, and that is families that are going through custody evaluations, difficult divorces, and things like that. And we thought that it would be very handy if we could record this video and communicate some information to the type of families that we see. What we'd like to do is to talk a little bit about the idea of a custody evaluation. They are big, they are scary, they are not inexpensive endeavors, and there are some pretty basic steps that families can take no matter what their situation in order to make it easier, in order to make it quicker, in order to minimize the impact it has on their family life. One of the things, the first thing is to organize your records. If you have records including medical records and mental health records, tax records, all that stuff, it's not necessarily the case that the evaluator will want to see them, but it's a good idea to have them all together. What's been your experience as far as records and families?
I think it is important for the families to go ahead and collect the records before meeting with the evaluator. The evaluator is going to make time to sit down, hear your story, have that first initial discussion with you, and if you can leave the records that they tell you they need at that first meeting, I think that they can review them when it's fresher. It keeps the continuity moving forward. It certainly shows you're prepared and you're taking it seriously and you're ready to move forward. And it prevents a situation where you have a meeting, documents are requested, it takes you 4 to 5 weeks to get them back. They get to the evaluator sort of out of context in the middle of a time when they're not really working on your case. And they could sit there for a while, or they're having to refresh their memory from their notes. So I think in terms of efficiency, getting it completed timely, as well as just the thoroughness and the cost of the evaluator not having to have these long lapses between working on your file, it's very important for you to show up with them at the meeting or with releases. Gotcha. If you're not able to get them, so that the evaluator can request them.
That makes sense, and that's a good point about having them available for the evaluator while the evaluator is working on your case directly and has had experience with you. I think it's always surprising to people just how time intensive it can take to obtain all the records that they need. Another thing that I would like to recommend to families that are going into custody evaluations is that they prepare what I like to call a special address book. In this address book will be the names, the numbers, the addresses, all kinds of contact information for any references that they might think the evaluator would want to see. What types of contacts do you recommend that your families prepare ahead of time?
A contact that has been involved with your family for a length of time. It doesn't need to be somebody that is aware of all the conflict, but has known you as a person for a long time, as a parent for a long time. Family members, it really depends on how close of a family member and how much relationship they have with you, as well as can they be unbiased? Can they step back and just give an objective evaluation of your family? If they can't, it's going to be a waste of the evaluator's time and the client's money to have someone that you know cannot be neutral or biased. If there are people that have been involved with the children in sporting events, coaches can be a wonderful resource. Teachers often are counselors, swim coaches, babysitters, if you've had private babysitters or daycare providers. But people have really seen the family with the guard down and would have had a chance to be exposed to the children and the parents on a consistent basis in context, but not in context of litigation.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. Usually coaches, teachers, those are just excellent people to get information from. It's really important that they're able to be objective when providing information to the evaluator. All right, so third and foremost, I think the biggest thing and probably the toughest thing for families to do going into these types of evaluations is to help manage their anxiety.
Yes.
Custody evaluations are long processes. They're not inexpensive. They're extremely stressful, and generally speaking, people are not entirely happy with them at the end. But they are a good way to provide objective information for the courts. And it's very stressful. What has been your experience with regards to stress and families going through custody evaluations?
I feel most families are concerned of a diagnosis or being labeled or tagged somehow when they undergo this evaluation. They lose sight that the inquiry is there any type of mental health issue or physical issue that would impair their ability to meet their child's or children's needs. So it's directly related. So I think if they understood that it doesn't matter, for instance, and just to use a particularly random one, that maybe somebody is diagnosed as being bipolar, for example. Maybe that's the first time that somebody sees, hey, I wonder if this person has a particular mental health issue. It doesn't mean that that's going to preclude them from meeting their child's needs.
Right.
And so I think the fear is that somehow they're going to be labeled and that it's going to be used against them. It's going to hurt their ability. And they're just very stressed about letting somebody into their world in that intimate of a fashion, and scared about the ramifications. So truly understanding that it is related to how you care for your child and whether you can meet that child's needs, I think helps them stay focused, especially if they can just sit back and realize, I am a good parent.
Right.
And nothing that anybody finds out about me is going to change the fact that I am a good parent. They maybe just give me more information that I can use to be a better parent, or perhaps some self-awareness that will help me parent in a way that I'm more pleased with, or that makes it easier on me, and just realize it's really a tool.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is a good point, that the scope of the evaluation really is just in regards to parenting.
Yes.
Parenting and co-parenting. Anything above and beyond that really should not be addressed in a custody evaluation, generally speaking. The other thing that I'd like to point out, and thank you for bringing this up, is that a good custody evaluation will include a lot of recommendations. And those recommendations are in part for the court, but also they will help, or they should help, parents out, because really everybody's best interest in these cases and evaluations and in the court hearings is the interests of the child. And it's not so bad to have a bunch of people who are very interested in the well-being of children get together. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we wrap up for today?
I think it's just important for anyone who's been asked to go into a custody evaluation. That's typically a pretty contested and contentious case. Custody evaluations are not usually ordered or agreed to by parties who are not seeing a judge or the inside of a courtroom on a fairly regular basis. So it can be difficult for them to remember that judges want children to have two parents. They want them to have healthy parents. They were brought into this world by two parents. They want them to keep them. So remembering that ultimately the person who is going to be potentially seeing the evaluation wants to keep a family intact for a child, I think should really help them understand that this is not an indictment or an attempt to cut somebody out, as much as perhaps the other parent may make it feel like that. Remember that the other parent isn't getting to make the decision after reading the evaluation, nor is the other attorney, but it is the judge, and they are going to be working very hard to keep the family unit intact the best way they can for the child, for their future and in their interest. And so it really should be something that they should welcome. In my experience, they actually don't see half the problems that the other side thinks is going to be revealed as a result of a custody evaluation, and usually more people are affirmed than some great, horrible, hidden dark secret that's going to keep them from being a parent is ever found in a custody evaluation.
Gotcha. Well, and that's good information. Really, the take-home message is, if you find yourself in the situation where you need to engage in a custody evaluation, really ask questions. Ask questions of your attorney, ask questions of other professionals you might know, and gather as much information as you can and be as prepared as you can. My name is Sean Knuth. Thank you for being here with myself and Leigh Sellers of Krusch and Sellers. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Happy to do it.
Thank you very much.